Hello there guys. Today I'm talking about a method of copying Morse tapers on a lathe. Since I'm in the middle of the project, I'm going to need to make myself one arbor that is Morse taper 2 and M10 thread from behind. I need to copy the taper angle so I can make this project to go on. Everything would be perfectly okay if the tapers that I have, this one is Morse 2, this one is Morse 4, doesn't matter, that everything would be okay, that when I would have tapers that have some straight part here in which I could grab it with a chuck and set it to run through. But this is not the case here. And since this hobby is, as all of you know, a money pit, I am forced to make one because, well, I'm not forced, but let's say that I'm cheap and I need money for other stuff that I cannot make in the shop. So how am I going to do it? I'm going to demonstrate this on my lathe. So let's go to the lathe. For this I'm going to take just a random piece of scrap, doesn't matter, from my scrap bin, and I have now in the lathe I have mounted my 4-jaw chuck, but the procedure works fine with a 3-jaw, doesn't matter. Doesn't even need to run perfectly through. Just we're going to chuck it in and center drill the part, just to establish a nice center. Of course, first I am going to face the part, just for sanity's sake, although it doesn't actually matter, but it is more precise if you have perfectly perpendicular this surface. So it cannot hurt. Probably would work without it, but we have a lathe and let's make some chips. That's enough. Surface finish is not needed because this is a scrap part, and after we do this, it's going to stay to be the scrap part. Now, after facing, simply let's center drill it. Let's make a center hole. Try to be as easy as possible because this is a very important part. So we want to be as close as possible to the center. So evacuate chips, back it a little, it should be fine. Doesn't really matter, it's okay. Now, after this, we are going to put live center in the tailstock. And now I'm going to put in taper. The taper we put so that our center hole from the taper is on our tailstock and the pointed part front is in our center drilled hole in the chuck. Snug a little on the tailstock, secure it, and now you can proceed with copying the taper angle. Now it's time for a little trick. It does not work for everybody, but if you have your old tool post, four-way tool post so called, there's a trick that one of my old friends showed me, how to get close to an angle that you need for your taper. I'm putting in now my old turret type tool post. And just try to set it as parallel as you can with your compound, so you have it square. Snug it a little, doesn't need to be much, and unscrew your compound on the beginning of your travel and loosen your angle screws on your compound end. Now the center runs perfectly true. The little trick that I learned, so to get close to the angle when your four-way tool post is mounted and your tapered angle screws are loosened, you can now just come close and touch the taper. Look for the contact area in here, and you're probably not spot on. You're going to use the indicator, of course, to verify it, but now it is fairly close. Pull back, and now it's time for an indicator. You can set now the compound angle to copy the taper on the beginning to start to lock the carriage. Like my former video, set your zero towards the tailstock and preload the dial, and now we can move it. Direction of our needle shows the direction of the part. You can use, it's good to use as much of the travel as possible, because then you have better accuracy. So I'm not going to do, I had movement of 3/10 of a millimeter. Now I cut that in half and I'm returning the compound. It's good when you use this type of indicator to measure always in the same direction. So now we are going to measure always moving towards the chuck with the compound slide. Started at 0 and we have now across the taper itself we have 22/100 of a millimeter of a movement. Now we go to set it somewhere close to 0 and try again. We are now somewhere in the near of 1/10 of a millimeter. Set it once more to 0 and try again. We are around 1/10 of a millimeter off. Trying to correct it now. Let's have a look now. Now we are within 1/100 of a millimeter. That's perfectly good, perfectly fine. So this is the method of setting the compound angle. And as I said, if you don't have the straight part on your Morse tapered shank, then this with the center is actually a very good trick. So you can manage to copy the taper angle like this, and you save yourself some money, because actually, frankly, I don't want to buy another shank if I can make it here. I'm going to use the money for something more useful, some things that you cannot make in your shop. And after all, what's the fun in buying everything? Even if you have unlimited sources of money, but it is not the fun. After all, it is hobby workshop, and you have to push your own limits in this order that you have. That would be all for this video. Thank you for watching. Share, like, subscribe if you like what you see, and see you in some next video. I'm in the process of making some cool projects, so see you.